Foreman. We're here at the Independent Spirit Awards with the team behind Thelma. I had the absolute joy of reviewing your movie. I loved your movie. Tell me about its inception.
It was based on something that happened to my grandma. She got a call, someone pretending to be me, saying I was in jail and I had hit a woman who was pregnant with my car, and things kind of spiraled out from there. But luckily, in real life, we were able to sort of step in and intervene before any money exchanged hands to bail the fictional me out. So, but that moment kind of, the nugget of that incident kind of inspired what became the movie, which was imagining if she had sent it and imagining the lengths I know she would have gone to get it back. And that kind of became a way to write an ode to her spirit and her tenacity, and that was the inception of it, basically. Then I teamed up with these two, and we kind of started working on it from there.
It's a relatable story, but it's so wild to hear. You kind of think it couldn't have possibly really happened. What was your reaction to this?
Well, I've been friends with Josh for a long time, so I remember when the real Thelma post did get scammed in their life, and the ripple it kind of sent through the family, because she's such a matriarch to the family and so strong and so funny. And in fact, she's still with us at 104?
104.
Yes. So the real Thelma is as badass as the character of Thelma. So I was both surprised, but also not, in a heartwarming way, that Josh would make the hero of his first film based on his grandmother, Thelma. So we were delighted when we first heard the script read aloud in our writers group, which was when Chris and I fell in love with the movie.
And as someone that didn't know Thelma before this, I only encountered Thelma through the script. So my reaction was just, this is awesome. This is a great script. I'm so happy she's getting her revenge.
And the whole idea of combining and kind of these action tropes was definitely a surprise and just so brilliant and exciting, and we knew right away we had to get involved.
It's an incredible cast, but I cannot imagine trying to cast somebody so important to you. And June's incredible, so why was she the right fit for the titular role of Thelma?
She to me felt like kind of the only person I could imagine doing it. She has such a wonderful mix of toughness and sensitivity and humor and heart, and I feel like she can kind of shift between those really, really seamlessly in a way that I see my grandma do in life, and that I felt very essential to the character. Someone who can both be kind of introspective and wistful at times, but also really hard charging and really narrowly focused on their goal in a way where nothing will get between them and that. And for me, June just had those qualities, and I love that she also was in her 90s, which is when my grandma was in her 90s when the real incident happened, and I thought there was something really wonderful having someone that age helm the movie in earnest, in the way that Tom Cruise, where there's a lot of influence, there's Tom Cruise influence in the movie, but in the way that he does his stunts for real, it's like someone in their 90s doing this movie, helming it, doing their own stunts, even if they're smaller, to me had a similar appeal of just watching them have to actually kind of make their way through the world and zero in on that fragility and the tension and the humor we can kind of mine from that. And to me, June was just I really couldn't picture anybody else, and I was so grateful and so happy she said yes.
The story stays so taut all the way through and uses those Mission Impossible kind of references to keep it really moving. When it came to pacing the project and screening it the first couple times, how did you make sure that you hit that sweet spot where you're both keeping up the action and the sweetness that you were looking for?
It's interesting because that was always the balancing act. I think when we did a lot of screenings, the tone was always the thing we tried to protect sort of most heartily. And I think the way those things either feed each other or feel weirdly side by side, we always wanted to make sure they were feeding each other, and that the energy of the family and the anxiety was kind of cresting into what became actual lo-fi action, and that those things always were kind of in conversation. So honestly, it was a lot of screening it, watching it, sanding it down, trimming it, shaping it, adding things back, cutting them again. The process was really involved in that way, because I think it was a delicate balance.
I think the music also was a huge component in post. Josh did such a good job throughout with the direction and the edit, which, he edited the movie himself. But Nick Chuba, our composer, once his work in kind of calibrating a day in the life of Thelma all the way towards a big action set piece ending, making sure it was always scored from her point of view, which is completely in line with the direction of making sure the action comes organically from Thelma herself and not kind of an outside comment on, isn't it funny that blank? It really, the stakes can stay alive even if things are funny. by virtue of that direction, the edit and Nick's composing.
And I think just what Josh was saying too, we really were open to feedback. We weren't trying to be too precious with the cut. Like the screenings really were important. It was really important for us to listen, and we didn't want to overstay our welcome. Like we knew we wanted to be an action comedy, and we wanted to be in the 90-ish minute range, and we felt like that was important for the movie and for everyone's, I don't know, attention.
It's going to be a slower than normal action comedy no matter what. So we wanted to make sure we calibrated that properly.
We've talked about casting June. I cannot imagine casting yourself, and I'm going to have to say it. Josh has a lot of behavioral kind of little mannerisms similar to Fred. So what was that reaction for you guys when you kind of figured out who was going to be playing Josh? What do you think?
You know, it's funny, the casting of Fred, Josh thought of this character because Josh, he himself is in his mid-30s. He wrote the part kind of similarly avatared towards his own experience. But when we all saw Fred in The White Lotus season 1, it just seemed so kismet. And he seemed so perfect that Josh took to the script and started writing Daniel as a character in his 20s. And that between the amazing performance of Fred, but also I think the changing of the age, I think that it gave that character a lot. And so yeah, it kind of was written towards Fred. It wasn't a happy accident, except for, of course, kind of being struck by his work and needing to get the pen out.
I think what was nice as well is that Fred and Josh do have like a really strong connection, and like it was very immediate, and they are kismet in that way, and he did pick up his mannerisms, and like I think watching the two of them together, you could see Fred becoming Josh slowly but surely.
They share this inherent sweetness.
Yeah,
you know?
they do.
Yeah.
It is. He's the best. And I'm not saying that as a weird way to compliment myself. I mean that genuinely about Fred. The parts of Fred that are Fred. But he's a lovely guy and a wonderful actor. And yeah, we aged it down for him because we saw him in White Lotus. And to your point, I felt kind of a kindredness with him and was just like this. We all were like, this is the guy. Kind of in the way we felt this is the person with June. And
the two of them had such familial chemistry themselves. I mean, not only did Fred kind of take on a lot of Josh, but I think he really feels like June's grandson.
Yes, more and more. The more time they spent together, the more related they felt, I feel like.
Yeah, and they're good friends now. They hang out whenever they're...
A lot of meals. Yeah.
They hang out in New York, they hang out in LA, they talk on the phone. Yeah, it's really sweet.